Have you ever wondered why, despite the silence, despite the absence of words or messages, you still occupy someone's mind? Why, even when they don't reach out, don't acknowledge you publicly, and appear to move on, you remain a quiet presence in their thoughts? This isn't just coincidence or ego playing tricks. It's a profound truth rooted in how humans experience connection, loss, and presence. The problem is simple yet painful. Silence is often mistaken for forgetting, for peace, for moving on. But is it really? Does silence truly mean they've let go? Or is it something far more complex, far deeper? The size of this misunderstanding is vast. It impacts how many of us navigate the aftermath of relationships, how we interpret absence, and how we hold ourselves in that space of quiet. We live in a world addicted to noise. Loud declarations, social media posts, and visible drama dominate the landscape. Yet Stoicism and Stoic relationships teach us that true strength, true presence, does not shout to be heard. It endures in silence. What if the silence you experience isn't emptiness, but a charged void where your presence lingers more powerfully than any word could? What if the key to understanding why you stay on their mind, even in silence, lies not in their actions, but in your own stoic power? Today, we will unravel these truths together. We will expose the common myths that silence equals peace, that absence means they don't care, and that chasing is the only way to be remembered. Instead, we will reveal a transformative solution, how embracing stillness, discipline, and self-respect rooted in Stoicism not only makes you unforgettable, but shifts the very way relationships imprint on the human mind and heart. This is not about ego or validation. It's about authenticity, growth, and mastery of self. Are you ready to discover the secrets that will change your approach to Stoic relationships forever? Stay with me, because what comes next will challenge your beliefs, strengthen your resolve, and empower you to own your silence as your greatest strength. Let's begin. 1. Silence is not peace. It's inner turmoil disguised. Have you ever sat alone in the quiet and felt an unsettling restlessness? Perhaps you told yourself this silence means they've moved on, that peace has settled between us. But what if that silence is not peace at all? What if beneath the calm surface lies a storm, a battle of unresolved emotions, a turmoil no words could capture? This is the paradox that most people fail to see. Silence often masks the loudest inner chaos. When someone truly lets go, their silence feels like a tranquil lake, still and undisturbed. Yet when they still carry the weight of memories, regrets, and what-ifs, their silence becomes a battlefield where thoughts clash like thunder, unseen but felt deeply. How often do we mistake silence for healing when it is actually suppression? How frequently do we convince ourselves that absence means indifference when it is often the very opposite, a restless mind refusing to let go? To grasp why you remain on their mind even in their silence, you must first understand that silence is not a blank void. It is charged with meaning. It carries questions that linger unanswered, emotions that refuse to be silenced, and memories that replay in the quiet moments when the noise of daily life fades. Imagine someone who pretends to be unaffected, who smiles in group photos and laughs off mentions of your name. Outwardly, they may appear composed, but inside, they could be wrestling with your presence as a ghost that haunts the corners of their mind. This is the nature of true presence. It does not need loud reminders or constant contact to linger. It embeds itself in the quiet recesses of the heart and mind, where ego cannot hide and pride cannot protect. In the world of Stoic relationships, silence is often misunderstood as peace, but Stoicism teaches us otherwise. The Stoics understood that the external calm does not guarantee internal tranquility. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. What thoughts are coloring their silence? Are they reflections of release or echoes of unrest? When you walk away with dignity, grounded in your values and self-respect, you leave behind a stillness that is not empty but full of presence, full of truth, full of unspoken impact. This stillness is not a void, it is a weight, a presence, so real it cannot be ignored even when words have ceased. Think about the times you have been in a room filled with people, and yet you felt the weight of someone's absence more than their presence. That is the kind of silence that speaks volumes. The silence, after a meaningful connection, carries the weight of all that was shared and all that was left unsaid. It holds the questions. Why did it end? What could have been different? Did they really mean it? These questions do not dissipate easily. They ripple endlessly in the quiet. Do you realize that when someone pretends not to care, when they dismiss your importance to themselves and others, they are often trying to protect themselves from the vulnerability that your memory stirs? Vulnerability requires courage, and pride often disguises that courage as indifference. But behind the mask of silence lies a turmoil that no social media post or casual conversation can erase. Silence becomes a prison when the mind is unwilling to release its hold, and the louder the external noise, the more your presence echoes in the quiet. This inner battle, the struggle between what they feel and what they admit, is where your true influence resides. Consider the analogy of a tidy room that looks peaceful on the outside, but behind closed drawers, chaos reigns. This is the invisible war your silence stirs inside them. They may fill their days with distractions, new people, and busy schedules, but in the quiet moments, driving alone, lying in bed or sitting in an empty room, your name surfaces like a ghost, unbidden and relentless. The music that once carried laughter now becomes heavier, more poignant. The places you visited together feel colder, quieter, and heavier with absence. Why does this happen? Because real presence transcends physical interaction. It lodges itself in the psyche and the emotions so deeply that no amount of noise or distraction can dislodge it. In Stoicism, we learn that true strength lies not in external validation, but in mastery over the self. Your calm, your dignity, your refusal to chase or beg become an enduring force that unsettles their internal equilibrium. They expected noise, drama, and pursuit. When you gave them stillness instead, you disrupted their patterns. You became the silent standard against which all else is measured. This is not about ego or spite. It is about the power of self-control and presence. The silence you leave behind is a mirror reflecting not only who you are, but who they are not ready to face. And that reflection carries weight. Ask yourself, how often have you mistaken silence for peace in your own life? How often have you believed that someone's quiet meant they were unbothered, only to find out later that their silence was a battlefield? What does this teach you about your own power to influence without words, to leave a mark without noise? The Stoics teach that endurance of quiet is the ultimate test of strength. To endure silence without fear, to remain steady without need for acknowledgement, is to wield a quiet power that lingers far beyond the spoken. So, when you wonder why you stay on their mind even in their silence, remember that silence is not the absence of thought or feeling. It is the presence of everything unspoken, unresolved, and deeply felt. Your presence is a force that cannot be silenced because it was real, it was calm, and it was rooted in truth. This understanding transforms how we approach Stoic relationships, reminding us that the true measure of impact is not the volume of words exchanged, but the depth of presence held. You do not need noise to matter. Your stillness speaks louder than any message ever could. This is why, even in their silence, you remain unforgettable. 2. Your presence lives in their habits, not just their words. Have you ever noticed how certain people, even after long periods of silence or separation, still seem to influence the daily rhythms and subtle routines of your life? This isn't a coincidence. When a connection is genuine and meaningful, it embeds itself in the fabric of daily life in ways far more profound than words can express. Think about the small moments. The way your favorite song suddenly becomes too painful to listen to, the hesitation before entering a place you once shared with someone, or the unconscious check of your phone late at night, hoping to see their name only to hide it quickly as if it never mattered. These are not random occurrences. They are the invisible threads of presence, woven deeply into habits and subconscious patterns. In Stoic relationships, presence is energy that lasts beyond conversation or explicit acknowledgement. It is the residue of authenticity, consistency, and calm steadiness that outlives the fleeting noise of words. While people may erase texts, delete photos, or avoid places, the subtle imprint of your essence remains. This presence manifests not through grand gestures or dramatic confessions, but in the quiet moments that stitch daily life together. How many people come and go in someone's life without leaving a trace? Many. Most, in fact, because most people rely on noise, performance, or demand attention to be remembered. But you did something different. You showed up grounded, calm, and steady. You didn't shout to be seen, you simply were. That kind of presence transcends forgetfulness. It moves beyond the limitations of verbal communication and becomes a part of how someone moves through the world. Picture this, brushing your teeth in the same mirror where you once stood together, only now the reflection feels colder, quieter, missing the energy you brought. Or lifting weights at the gym while your mind drifts not to the workout, but to how effortlessly you moved through life, composed, focused, unshaken. These daily patterns become a subconscious reminder that lingers long after direct contact has ended. The brain does not work like a simple recorder of facts. It stores emotional impressions, programs habitual reactions, and carries forward the presence of those who mattered. It is in these patterns, the habits, the small hesitations, the unspoken references, where your true influence dwells. When they check their phone late at night, wondering if your name might appear, they are not just chasing a text, they are reaching for the sense of calm, clarity, and presence you embodied. But why do they remain silent? Why don't they confess this influence openly? The answer lies in pride, fear, and vulnerability. To admit that someone still affects your habits is to admit that you have not moved on fully. And that can feel like weakness in a world that values control and appearance. Vulnerability demands courage, and many would rather wear the mask of indifference than face the truth of lingering feelings. Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." You embodied presence in a way that words could never capture. This is why your presence exists in habits rather than just history. You didn't preach your value or demand recognition. You simply lived it. That lived truth becomes the quiet background music of their everyday life, impossible to mute or ignore. You may wonder, how can absence feel so loud? How can silence program someone's habits? The truth is that genuine connection affects the subconscious mind deeply, influencing emotions and behaviors beyond immediate awareness. They may not articulate it, but every hesitation, every skipped song, every glance at the phone is a subtle acknowledgement of what you gave them. A presence rooted in truth, calm, and consistency. This presence is the foundation of Stoic relationships, where actions and energy carry more weight than words and drama. You became a benchmark, a silent standard against which all new experiences are measured. And this is why they keep comparing every new person to you, often without realizing it. This comparison is not an act of malice, but a subconscious search for the peace and authenticity they lost when you left. It is the quiet question that haunts their interactions. Why doesn't this feel like it used to? What was different about you? The answer lies in the power of your stillness and the consistency of your character. They didn't need you to shout or chase, they needed you to simply be steady, calm, and real. That is a rare energy in a world addicted to attention and performance. You didn't seek to control or manipulate. You offered freedom, freedom from drama, chaos, and emotional turmoil. This freedom creates a lasting imprint that shapes how they relate to themselves and others. When they meet someone new, the noise and excitement often overshadow the deeper need for calm and clarity. Yet in quiet moments, your presence returns as a quiet standard, making everything else feel out of focus or shallow. You became the invisible thread woven into their habits, shaping their inner world, even as they pretend otherwise. This presence is not a burden, but a testament to your authenticity and discipline. You didn't need to demand attention because your value was inherent and unshakable. This is the essence of Stoicism applied to relationships. Self-respect, calm endurance, and living in alignment with your values leave a more profound impact than any fleeting gesture. So ask yourself, how are you embodying presence in your own life? Are you creating a quiet influence that transcends words and noise? Are your actions rooted in truth and consistency, shaping the habits of those around you? Or are you caught in cycles of performance and drama that fade as quickly as they appear? To stay unforgettable, to remain a powerful presence even in silence, is to master the art of living authentically, calmly and steadily. It's not about being loud or demanding, it's about being steady, grounded and true. And when you embody this, you don't need words to remind others of your value. It echoes through their habits, their routines, and their very way of being. This is the power of presence in Stoic relationships, where true connection is less about what is said and more about who you are. So if this resonates with you, like and comment number 1 if you appreciate this message, and subscribe to stay connected with more insights on mastering Stoicism in your relationships and personal growth. Your presence matters, quietly, deeply, and powerfully. 3. You didn't chase, and that haunts them. Have you ever noticed how predictable human nature becomes when faced with loss or distance? There is a familiar script played out in countless relationships. Drama erupts, emotions flare, and one party chases desperately for answers, for reconciliation, for validation. The other retreats, sometimes overwhelmed, sometimes confused, but almost always expecting the familiar cycle of pursuit to return. But what happens when that pursuit never comes? What if the person you expected to chase, to beg, to fight for your attention, instead chooses silence, calm, and dignity? This absence of chase unsettles the natural order that many have grown accustomed to. It haunts them precisely because it breaks the pattern they understand. Most people associate love and worth with the intensity of pursuit, the chasing, the calls, the texts, the emotional outbursts. These actions become the currency of connection, proof of care, and validation of importance. But what if that currency is an illusion? What if chasing is less a sign of love and more a symptom of emotional insecurity and dependence? The Stoics understood this deeply. They taught that true freedom comes from mastery over one's emotions, from not being a slave to external circumstances or the actions of others. Epictetus said, "He who is not a slave to his emotions is truly free." When you refused to chase, you embodied this freedom. You showed that your worth does not depend on another's approval or attention. This refusal to chase is what haunts them because it disrupts their narrative. They expect to provoke a reaction, to stir up a storm where they can feel control and significance. But when you respond with silence and steady self-respect, you become an unshakable presence they cannot manipulate or understand. Imagine their surprise when the lever they pulled repeatedly, the emotional bait, the mixed signals, the games, failed to produce the expected reaction. They light a match expecting to see you burn, but you dissolve into mist instead. You didn't chase because you chose yourself. You respected your boundaries, guarded your peace, and refused to feed the chaos. This refusal is revolutionary in a culture that celebrates emotional drama and conditional attention. It challenges the belief that love must be loud, frantic, and proof by desperation. You became the quiet strength, the calm in the storm, and that presence is deeply unsettling for those who thrive on emotional turbulence. They may check their phone hoping for your name, but quickly pretend it doesn't matter. They revisit old messages only to delete them after rereading, caught between wanting to connect and fearing vulnerability. They ask mutual friends about you under the guise of casual curiosity, but are really seeking a connection they lost. This contradiction, wanting to reach out but holding back, is the internal conflict that your silence ignites. It is not indifference. It is fear, confusion, and a lack of readiness to face a version of you who no longer needs their validation. This dynamic reflects a profound misunderstanding of strength and love. Many believe that if someone truly mattered, you would fight for them, chase after them, and prove your worth. But Stoicism reveals a deeper truth. If they mattered, you would respect their space and guard your peace. True love is not about control or clinging, it is about freedom and dignity. When you stop chasing, you demonstrate that your value is inherent, not contingent. You do not lower yourself to match someone else's emotional chaos or confusion. Instead, you rise above it with discipline and stillness. This is the essence of Stoic relationships, choosing peace over pride, self-respect, over desperation, and mastery over emotional reactions. Your calm refusal to chase becomes a mirror reflecting their unresolved issues. It forces them to confront their own insecurities and fears, which is uncomfortable and often avoided. This reflection is not meant to punish, but to awaken. Yet many resist it, retreating into silence as a defense mechanism. They tell themselves silence equals strength, but Stoicism teaches that suppression only delays healing and understanding. Silence without peace is a prison of the mind. Your presence in that silence is a silent reminder of the freedom they have yet to embrace. You didn't chase, and that choice breaks their expectations and unsettles their ego. You didn't beg for clarity or closure because you had already found it within yourself. This independence is the true power that haunts them. It is the realization that someone they cared for deeply could love without neediness, could feel loss without desperation, and could walk away with dignity. This paradox of love without attachment, strength without aggression, is difficult for many to comprehend. It disrupts the emotional narratives that bind them to past patterns. You became an example of emotional mastery and self-control, showing that true connection is not about frantic pursuit, but about grounded presence. This example challenges others to rethink their own behaviors and beliefs about relationships. The silence you maintain is not emptiness, but a space for transformation. It is a demonstration of Stoic principles lived authentically in the messy realm of human connection. So when you reflect on why you stay on their mind even in their silence, remember that your refusal to chase is a testament to your growth and strength. It is the invisible force that unsettles, challenges, and ultimately teaches. This is the kind of presence that lasts, not because it shouts, but because it endures quietly, with unyielding self-respect and clarity of purpose. For they compare everyone else to the one who let them go quietly. Have you ever noticed how, even after someone moves on or appears to close the chapter, The shadow of that person lingers, influencing how they experience every new relationship. This is not an accident or mere nostalgia. It is a subconscious benchmark shaped by your quiet strength and dignified departure. When you let go without drama, without noise, and without the desperate need for validation, you establish a standard in their mind, a silent standard that every new person, every new interaction is compared against, often unknowingly. In a world addicted to attention, performance, and constant validation, your calm exit becomes a rare and powerful contrast to the usual chaos. They parade their new connections like trophies, post smiling selfies, and declare themselves moved. And yet deep inside, every new relationship lives in the shadow of what you embodied. Why? Because true presence, rooted in peace and self-respect, leaves a lasting imprint that words and actions driven by drama cannot replicate. They find themselves comparing the laughter that feels forced, the conversations that lack depth, and the gestures that seek approval, all against the quiet dignity you carried when you left. This comparison is not an act of bitterness or spite. It is a subconscious measure of what was lost and what they crave but cannot recreate. How often have you witnessed this yourself or in others, when someone who left quietly and respectfully is remembered far longer than those who shouted their pain or begged for attention? This phenomenon reflects the power of Stoic relationships, where authenticity and calm endurance outlast emotional chaos. They may once have criticized your stillness as coldness, your patience as passivity, or your silence as disinterest. But, now faced with the noise and drama of new connections, they crave that very stillness they once dismissed. What does this reveal about human nature and the value of true strength? It shows that people often mistake noise for love and drama for passion, only to realize later that peace and steady presence are the real foundations of lasting connection. Your calm exit, your refusal to engage in emotional games, becomes a mirror reflecting their own unmet needs and unfulfilled desires. This mirror is uncomfortable because it exposes what they rejected or failed to appreciate in you. They are confronted not only with the absence of your presence, but with the emptiness that replaced it. The void left by your dignified departure is a quiet but profound reminder of what real connection looks like. This realization can trigger feelings of loss, regret, and introspection, emotions they may hide behind social media posts and public declarations of moving on. The irony is that by not chasing, not pleading, and not performing, you created a standard that feels impossible for others to meet. They may try to match it, but fall short because they are operating from a place of neediness rather than authenticity. You became the silent benchmark of what love without desperation looks like. This is a testament to the transformative power of Stoicism applied to relationships. Stoicism teaches us to embody our values, to live with discipline and dignity, and to accept what we cannot control with grace. When you leave quietly and respectfully, you are not conceding defeat. You are asserting your self-worth in the most powerful way possible. This sets a new rhythm in the dance of relationships, one where calm presence replaces chaos and self-respect replaces pleading. So, how does this influence their future connections? Every new encounter is filtered through the lens of what they once had with you. The calm confidence, the steady gaze, the absence of neediness. These become the quiet questions they ask themselves about new partners. Why doesn't this feel the same? Why is this connection so noisy and unstable? These questions reveal the deep impact your presence had. It is a standard written not in words, but in energy, consistency, and authenticity. And because it is subtle, it often goes unnoticed, yet it shapes emotions and behaviors profoundly. They may not consciously acknowledge it, but they feel the weight of your absence every time they interact with someone new. This invisible comparison becomes a silent conversation within their hearts and minds, a quiet echo of what was and what could have been. This is the power of Stoic relationships, where true connection transcends words and gestures and becomes a lasting influence on how others relate to themselves and the world. So as you reflect on why you stay on their mind, even in their silence, understand that your quiet exit was not a loss, but a gain. You set a standard of dignity and calm that challenges the noise and chaos of ordinary connections. This is your legacy, your unspoken gift to those who follow. If this message resonates with you, like and comment #1 to let us know, and subscribe for more insights on embracing Stoicism and mastering Stoic relationships. Your presence matters, quietly, deeply, and profoundly. 5. Your growth became their reflection, and they don't like what they see. Have you ever considered how profoundly one person's growth can unsettle another? How your evolution, your steady rise in clarity, discipline, and peace can act as a mirror reflecting not only your strength, but also the absence of growth in someone else? This is a dynamic few acknowledge, yet it underpins why you remain on their mind, even in silence. When you grow beyond the version of yourself they once knew, stronger, more grounded, more aligned with your true nature, you inadvertently expose what they have avoided becoming. Growth is not merely personal progress. It becomes an external force that challenges those around you to confront their own stagnation, fears, and unresolved struggles. This reflection can be uncomfortable, even painful, for those who have not embraced similar growth. Imagine standing before a mirror that doesn't show just your current image, but reveals the potential you refuse to pursue. This is the image they see when they think of you. It's not your intention to provoke or shame them, but your growth serves as undeniable proof of what was possible and what they missed. How often have you observed someone who leaves a relationship seemingly unscathed, only to find that the other party's advancement highlights their own inertia? This is not a coincidence, but a natural consequence of transformation. Your evolution in mindset, habits, and emotional mastery illuminates the gap between who you were and who you have become. For those still caught in cycles of confusion, denial, or emotional turmoil, your progress becomes a reflection they cannot bear to face. They may scroll through your social media updates, hear whispers from mutual friends, or feel the subtle shift in your energy, and inside something tightens, a knot of regret, envy, or shame. This discomfort is not about jealousy, but about recognition. They recognize that you have moved on, not with bitterness, but with grace. You stand taller, clearer, and more composed. You respond with wisdom rather than reaction. This transformation reveals what they lost, not only in you, but within themselves. The silence they maintain masks the inner dialogue between their ego and their heart, a war where your growth is both weapon and mirror. It forces them to question their choices and confront the parts of themselves they ignored or denied. Stoicism teaches us that real growth is not superficial, but rooted in self-mastery and acceptance of life's challenges. You did not grow by escaping pain, but by embracing it, using solitude as a gym, heartbreak as resistance, and silence as discipline. While they distracted themselves with avoidance and denial, you rebuilt yourself. This process creates distance, even without words or confrontations. You are no longer accessible in the same way, emotionally, energetically, or mentally. You shifted out of the identity that needed validation from others and stepped into a version of yourself defined by clarity and purpose. This shift, while liberating for you, unsettles those who remain attached to past versions of you or themselves. It highlights the contrast between growth and stagnation, progress and complacency. This contrast is the reason your absence feels heavier than any presence ever could. It is the weight of what you have become versus what they failed to become. How does this realization affect their behavior? Often it leads to hesitation, avoidance, or silence. They hesitate to reach out because the person you are now is not the person they left behind. They avoid confrontation because it requires vulnerability and acknowledgement of their own shortcomings. Their silence is a shield guarding against the discomfort of facing their reflection. This is the paradox of growth in Stoic relationships. It can create distance even in proximity, silence even in shared spaces. Yet this distance is necessary. It is the space where healing, reflection, and transformation occur. Your growth is not meant to punish or alienate, but to inspire and illuminate. It is an invitation to others to awaken to their own potential. Reflect on this. Have you ever felt triggered by someone else's success or peace? Have you ever noticed discomfort when confronted with your own missed opportunities or unresolved struggles? This is a natural human reaction to growth, both our own and that of others. But Stoicism encourages us to move beyond resentment or shame. It invites us to embrace growth as a shared journey, understanding that your progress is not a threat, but a beacon. Your presence, even in silence, is a living testament to resilience, discipline, and self-respect. It shows what is possible when we commit to becoming our best selves. This reflection can spark awakening in those who are ready, or deepen the silence for those who are not. Either way, it affirms your path and purpose. You did not post out of spite or to provoke jealousy. You evolved quietly, steadily, and authentically. This authentic growth becomes a narrative that challenges others to rethink their own lives and relationships. It shows that healing is personal but visible, that transformation is real but often uncomfortable to witness from the outside. The silence and distance you experience are not signs of forgetting, but of internal reckoning. They are the space where your reflection stirs questions, doubts, and hopes in others. In this space, your growth continues to echo, louder than any words or gestures. So, when you wonder why you stay on their mind, even in their silence, understand that your growth is the reason. It is the mirror they avoid but cannot escape. It is the proof that you chose resilience over surrender, clarity over confusion, and self-mastery over chaos. This is the true power of Stoicism in relationships, not the absence of emotion, but the mastery of it. Not the loudness of presence, but the depth of growth. Your journey becomes a quiet revolution, a testament to what is possible when one embraces hardship with courage and discipline, and that is unforgettable. 6. Their ego blocks the message their heart wants to send. Have you ever wondered why, despite all the silence, all the distance, and the absence of direct communication, someone still keeps returning in their thoughts yet never reaches out? Why does their heart seem to remember so vividly while their actions remain cold and distant? This contradiction between what they feel and what they express is often the result of a powerful force at work, the ego blocking the message that the heart longs to send. The ego, in its fierce desire to protect pride and self-image, erects walls around vulnerability, convincing them that silence is strength and avoidance is control. But Stoicism teaches us that true strength is not in denial or suppression, but in facing reality with clarity and courage. Their silence is not a sign that they do not care. It is a sign that their ego fears what would happen if they admitted how deeply they do. This internal war between ego and heart is invisible to outsiders, but felt keenly by those who remain connected through memories and emotional ties. The ego whispers, "Do not be the first to break. Do not show weakness. Do not let them see you. Care, And so, despite the ache in their chest and the replaying of moments shared, they hold back, paralyzed by the fear of appearing vulnerable or dependent. They might open your profile only to close it again, hover over the keyboard without sending a message, and ask friends about you without admitting their own longing. This is the ego's strategy, to maintain control by silencing the heart. But what price do they pay for this self-imposed prison? Pride may win the battle of silence, but it never wins the peace of the soul. This battle inside them is where your presence quietly resides, haunting the spaces where ego cannot fully dominate. You became the paradox they cannot resolve, calm in the chaos, steady in the storm. When they expected explosions, you gave them silence. When they expected panic, you gave them peace. This contrast is intimidating because it reflects their own unresolved fears and insecurities. Their silence becomes not an absence of feeling, but a symptom of inner turmoil masked by bravado. The heart remembers, but the ego fights desperately to keep the truth hidden, both from themselves and from you. This is why they hesitate to reach out, why they remain in the shadows, and why they keep you on their mind without closing the distance. The Stoics remind us that ego is an obstacle to wisdom, a barrier to authentic connection. It guards the door to vulnerability with fierce loyalty, but vulnerability is where real strength and healing begin. You embody this strength by standing firm in your truth, by mastering your emotions, and by choosing peace over pride. You are not here to compete with their ego or to lower your standards to meet their confusion. You are here to remain grounded, to walk your path with dignity and clarity, regardless of their silence. This is the mastery that makes you unforgettable. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." You live by this compass, refusing to negotiate your peace for the sake of appearances or the comfort of others. This unwavering authenticity unsettles those who hide behind silence and masks. They do not know how to approach someone who no longer responds from woundedness, but from wholeness. They fear the version of you they left behind is gone, replaced by someone they cannot reach or understand. This fear keeps them trapped in silence, caught between longing and pride. Your stillness pierces louder than any words because it reflects a healed spirit and a disciplined mind. It exposes the cracks in anyone still pretending that silence means indifference. And so, the lie they tell themselves and others, that they don't care, unravels in the dark when no one is watching. Their heart speaks through guilt and regret, only to be silenced again by ego's grip. This is the battlefield where your presence lingers, not as a ghost, but as a beacon of what is possible when one chooses mastery over reaction. So when you wonder why you stay on their mind, even in their silence, understand that you are the living proof of the peace they have yet to find. Your calm is the echo of the strength they fear to show. Your silence is the sound of wisdom they have yet to embrace. You are not haunting them, you are awakening them, whether they are ready or not. This realization can keep someone awake at night, wondering how you moved on so peacefully, how you rose without them, and why you no longer seek their validation. And that is the true power of Stoicism in relationships, not the absence of feeling, but the mastery of it. Not the loudness of presence, but the depth of stillness. Your journey is a quiet revolution that challenges old narratives and invites others to reconsider what strength, love, and connection truly mean. If you find truth in this message, like and comment #1 to share your resonance, and subscribe for more guidance on embodying Stoicism and mastering Stoic relationships. Your presence matters, quietly, profoundly, and forever. As we come to the close of this exploration into why you stay on their mind, even in their silence, it is vital to recognize that silence is far from a void. It is not a simple absence, but a complex space charged with meaning, memory, and emotional presence. The silence that follows a genuine connection carries weight, the weight of unspoken truths, unresolved feelings, and the enduring imprint of presence. In Stoicism, we learn that the external circumstances do not govern our peace. Rather, it is mastery over our inner world that determines our strength. Your calm, your dignity, your refusal to chase or to react from a place of hurt have crafted a presence that endures far beyond words or contact. This presence lives on in habits, memories, reflections, and the silent battles waged within their minds. It is a testament to the power of self-respect and authenticity, qualities that transcend the noise of drama and performance so prevalent in relationships today. When you embody Stoic relationships through discipline, patience, and quiet strength, you create a standard that echoes in silence, shaping not only your own growth, but also influencing those around you in profound ways. You become the mirror reflecting not only your own resilience, but also the parts of others they are not yet ready to face. This reflection is both a challenge and an invitation to awaken, to grow, and to embrace the peace that comes from mastering oneself rather than controlling others. Understand that your absence is not empty. It is filled with the lessons of Stoicism and the echoes of your authentic self. It is the space where true growth takes place, where silence reveals its hidden truths, and where presence becomes a force, stronger than words. As you move forward, remember that silence does not diminish your impact. On the contrary, it amplifies it. For those who truly matter will carry your presence with them, even when they cannot speak your name aloud. This journey is not about seeking validation from others, but about owning your peace and living with unwavering integrity. It is about choosing self-mastery over reaction, presence over noise, and wisdom over fleeting emotion. And in doing so, you do not just stay on their mind. You remain a powerful force in your own life, shaping your destiny with calm strength and clear purpose. Let this understanding be your compass, guiding you through the complexities of relationships and the silent spaces they leave behind. The true power of Stoicism is revealed not in the loudness of your presence, but in the depth of your silence and the authenticity of your growth. Carry this truth with you always, for it is the foundation of lasting peace and meaningful connection. And so, as this reflection draws to a close, I encourage you to embrace your silence, honor your journey, and trust that your presence, quiet, profound, and unwavering, will continue to echo far beyond what words can express. This is the essence of Stoic relationships and the legacy of true strength. Your story is not defined by noise or chaos, but by the calm and steady light you carry within. May that light guide you, inspire others, and remind you that in silence lies your greatest power.